Welcome, everyone. I'm Christine Biglin with St. Mary's County Library, and welcome to our program on fall bird feeding. We have with us Barb Whipke, who is the owner of Wild Birds Unlimited stores in Lexington Park and La Plata. And she is going to tell us all about how to get those birds into our yard with our bird feeders. So thank you very much, Barb.
Yes. Thanks, everyone, for joining us tonight. So I'm going to pop right into the PowerPoint here. So I'm going to share screen. So now is the time that you want to start getting ready to help the birds. But first, we're going to dispel a couple myths. One is that feeding the birds year-round is not going to cause them to become dependent on your feeders. Birds only get about 10 to 20% of their food from your feeders. Right now, you may be noticing that your feeders are a little less busy than what they have been. The reason for that is a lot of your flowers are going to seed right now. If you notice, looking at your coneflower, things like that, sunflowers in that, all of your little goldfinch are all over those flowers. That's because they know that nature is best. So they're out there eating from nature, and they're going to come back to your feeders as soon as they have started to deplete nature. So naturally, they know nature's best. They're just using our feeders to supplement. So you do not have to worry that they're going to become dependent. Our grandparents fibbed to us when they told us that leaving our feeders up are going to keep the hummingbirds from migrating. Hummingbirds specifically know when to migrate, any of our birds actually, but we're often told it with hummingbirds, take those feeders down or they won't leave for the winter. That's not true. They know based on the length of day when it's time to take off. You've probably already noticed that most of your males, the ones with the red throats, have moved on. A lot of the females have also moved, and mostly what's at your feeders right now are the juveniles that were born in your yard this year. So those little ones will be fueling up and heading out any day now. We would like you to go ahead and keep those feeders up for those hummingbirds longer, though, because there's going to be a lot of hummingbirds trickling on through. It's been so dry this year that there's not a lot of natural food sources out there for them. Any year, we would prefer you keep at least one up through Halloween, preferably through Thanksgiving. You don't have to keep all your feeders up. You don't need to fill them all the way. Just keep a small amount there, just so when those migrators come through, they can find a source of nectar. So keeping those feeders up are not going to make them dependent, and it's also not going to keep them from migrating. So it's totally okay to keep feeding those birds year-round, 365 days a year. And then we're going to talk about why is bird feeding important to the birds. It used to be that, every house had a flower garden. That's not the case now. There's not as many trees. You look at these neighborhoods, they come in to build a new neighborhood, and the first thing they do is just take down all the trees and start, with this sterile area. So when they take down those trees, they take down a lot of food sources for the birds. So it becomes a little more important until those yards get reestablished to have some other feeding sources for those birds to help them get reestablished. So providing a source of food for those birds that are beginning to prepare for winter, and we're going to get into that in a minute, exactly what they're doing to prepare for winter. But then also keeping that buffet open for those birds that are migrating. So whether those birds are migrating through the area or whether those birds are the ones that have been with you all summer and are getting ready to head out. If they're getting ready to head out like the hummingbirds are, you've probably noticed that they're sitting at your feeders and they're sitting there drinking a lot right now because they need all of the body fat on them that they can possibly get to help them with that long journey. But then also some of them are going to be stopping through. Right now, we have a crazy amount of Baltimore Orioles stopping through, our state bird. Most of us have never seen one in Maryland. The only time we do typically see them is when they're migrating. A few people over the last few winters have kept them in the winter, just one or two. The last 2 weeks, crazy number have been reported here. Our guess is because it's been so dry this winter, a lot of them are seeing them at bird baths, but they're also feeding off of oranges and grape jelly. Not your store-bought grape jelly. That is very high in sugar, so we really don't want to be using that. But there is a special grape jelly that you can get specifically for the birds. Putting those out are great. They're also coming for bark butter bits if you use that product, or dried mealworms or peanuts are another one. Also, our cranberry cylinders. If you've used any of our cylinders, they are seeming to love the cranberry cylinders, which again has peanuts in it, but also has the fruit in it, and they're a fruit-loving bird. The bug nut and berry cylinder is another one they're going after. So having food out right now as the migrating birds are going through is your chance at catching birds that we wouldn't normally have here in Southern Maryland. So definitely, even though our feeders may not be as busy in the fall as they are the rest of the year, don't neglect having those feeders fresh and open to catch some of those unusual birds. Bird baths. Customers are getting some really unusual birds at their bird baths right now. So if you don't have a bird bath, I definitely suggest you get a bird bath out there, or at least a small pan of water. Make sure you're changing it every 2 or 3 days. Water is a huge hit right now because, again, it has been so dry this summer. And then helping migrating birds along the way. Would you take your family on a trip without plenty of snacks? That's kind of the mentality that migrating birds have. They aren't able to pack a cooler full of snacks to take with them, so they basically have to put it on in the form of fat. So that's why those hummingbirds are sitting at your feeder and sucking down that nectar. That's why you're seeing these birds stop and spend 2 or 3 days at your feeder and then all of a sudden disappearing. That's what we're hearing with the Baltimore Orioles. The grosbeaks, rose-breasted grosbeaks are starting to appear right now. Safflower is the magic food for the rose-breasted grosbeaks. If you want to get those in, get some safflower out. They're going to come by. They're going to be here 2 or 3 days unless a hurricane moves in, and then they tend to stay a little bit longer. They'll just kind of stay put until the bad weather moves out. Those birds are going to stop, refuel, because they can't pack that cooler and take it with them. So they're going to use your feeders to refuel and then take off again. So it's kind of a feeding frenzy when things like this happen, the migrating birds, or like I said, when a hurricane moves in. The focus right now on the birds at the feeder are those migrating birds trying to fatten up. They've got to get enough weight on them in the form of fat to try to carry them to that next feeder or that next source of food. They don't have a GPS or a map where they can look and find out where the next Wawa is, where the next Sheetz is. So they're just trusting that whatever they can put on at your feeder is going to get them through to that next source of food. So your full feeder could be the difference for them between life or death. So just try to keep those feeders. You don't necessarily have to fill them all the way, but just keep a source of food in there and make sure it's clean. If you're finding that the feeder isn't emptying as quick, or if it's molding before it goes down, put less in it, but just make sure you're keeping sources of food out there. If there's an empty feeder out there and they can't find food, they're going to quickly move on out of your yard. So instead of getting that 2 or 3 days with that rose-breasted grosbeak or that Baltimore oriole, they're going to head to somebody else's yard. So at least try to keep a small amount of food in those feeders and make sure to keep it clean. The cool thing is once you put that food out there and they find you as a source of food, come spring, when it's time for them to migrate the other way, you're now on their GPS. So they're going to remember, oh, wait, last year I found food in this yard. So they're going to kind of head back to your house and look and see if you still have those feeders going for them. So you kind of tend to increase those population every season. So a couple of them, I mentioned the rose-breasted grosbeak. That's the male there on the right. Safflower is typically what they're coming to your feeders for. They love safflower. When I take this off PowerPoint, I'll show you some of the different seeds in that I talk about as we go through here. But definitely safflower is a good one. Again, the hummingbirds right now, keep that nectar clean. You want to, well, we're still in the heat. You want to change it every 3 days. Once it cools down a little bit more, you can get 5 days out of it. But definitely keep that nectar going for them. These ones that are with us now are mostly juveniles, so they are our most vulnerable. That's the reason they are the last to leave. The males leave first, the females leave next, and then those juveniles have to stay longer so that they can bulk up. But not all of our birds migrate, and we're actually pretty lucky here in Southern Maryland, because the majority of our songbirds actually stay here with us year round. A couple of them that people always think migrate is our American robin, and they stay here with us year round. During the coldest part of the year, we don't see them. All of a sudden, we start hearing from people, oh my gosh, it's only January and the American robin's back already. They have been here all along. It's just a case of we got a warm day, so they came out of the woods. They've been back in the woods digging through the mulch, looking for worms and that. But we got a warm day, so they came out to take advantage of the sun, but they've been here all along. Bluebirds also stay here year round. If you have bluebird houses, now's the time we need you to clean those out, because those bluebirds are going to live communally in your bluebird house. The entire family is going to move in together. They're going to pile up on top of each other for body warmth. You may have 5, 6, 7. I've seen videos of up to 21 in a single bluebird house. And they're going to live in there on top of each other for body warmth. So tomorrow, if it's a nice day, get out and get those bluebird houses cleaned out. What's the other? Goldfinch is another one that people tend to think leave. Goldfinches just finished nesting. So they are getting ready to molt. They've been that pretty bright yellow, but they are going to molt. They're going to lose that beautiful yellow, and they're going to kind of turn an olive drab color, but they're going to stay with us all winter. So they will be here with us too. And of course, all of them we see here are going to be here. Our little Carolina wren in the top, our downy woodpecker there. That one is the male because he has the red on the back of his head. If there were no red, it would be the female. And then the blue jay there. So what you're going to start noticing here in the next week or so are the birds caching seeds away. It's most common with our blue jays, our tufted titmice, and our Carolina chickadees. So what you're going to see them do is come to your feeders, grab something, take off. And they're going to repeat this all day long. And you're going to see them come and take off the same direction. They are taking food and storing it away for winter. They'll put it in the bark of trees, little crevices in fence, things like that. They'll remember where they put it, but they're going to store that away. So in case you take your feeders down, because they're not counting on you having that feeder going all winter, they want to make sure that they have enough food to get them through the winter. So now's a good time if you've been feeding the no mess blends, that's our seeds that have no shells on them, to add something to your lineup that has a shell on it. So I always make sure this time of year that I add some tree nutty in. And again, I'll show that to you when I take it off. Tree nutty has a lot of nuts in it, so it's high fat, which is great for them. But it also has some seed that still has some shell on it too. It just holds up a little better for storage for them. If your peanuts in the shell have not been moving as quickly, you've probably noticed in the last week or week and a half, all of a sudden the levels have started going down because the blue jays have already started storing that away. I have been noticing here customers coming in just for bags of peanuts. So it's pretty apparent that it's not just my blue jays that are storing it away. The tufted titmouse, the little guy there in the bottom, they also like peanuts in the shell. And believe it or not, that little guy can carry an entire peanut with the shell still on it away. As tiny as he is. So when the birds are looking for a yard to spend their winter in, which is what they're going to start doing right now as they prepare, they're going to look for three things. They're going to look for a steady source of food, which again is one more reason you don't want empty feeders. Even if you're not filling those feeders full, make sure there's food in them. So they're looking for food, they're looking for shelter. So you're going to make sure those houses are clean, in good repair. If you've got any houses falling apart, it's time to get those repaired or replaced. And then make sure your bird baths are being kept clean and filled. If you've got those three things going on in your yard, there's a good chance that they're going to choose your yard over your neighbor's yard to winter with. If you don't have those three things and your neighbor does have those three things, guess who's probably going to win out when it comes to them choosing their location? So you want to make sure you have the upper hand on your neighbor. So when we talk about winter, if you want to get more birds in the wintertime, a heated bird bath is really where it's at. When we talk about a heated bird bath, if you were to, there on the right where those bluebirds are, if I were to stick my hand in there with all that snow on there, it would come out ice cold. It is not a sauna for the birds. It has a thermostat and it keeps it just above freezing. So in the winter, the birds need to keep their feathers clean because they need to be able to fluff those feathers up to form pockets of insulation, just kind of like your down coat does, to keep them warm. If they can't keep those feathers clean, they're not going to fluff and they're not able to keep warm. So adding a heated bird bath is a great way to bring in extra birds, particularly bluebirds. A lot of our customers, myself included, who was not able to get bluebirds in their yard, adding a heated bird bath in the winter, having a bluebird house for them to roost in was the key to getting those bluebirds in. So bringing those in there, that heated bird bath is going to really help you with that. If you're not able to add in a heated bird bath, then at least being able to change out the water a couple times a day when it is below freezing is going to help with that. If you already have a metal bird bath, we do have heaters that can be added to bird baths, and that's going to help as well. Heated bird baths do not come in solar. We get asked that a lot. They have to have a plug-in receptacle, and that's just because in the winter, there's just not a lot of sun, reliable sun to hold solar there, the solar power there to keep the heater going. So you do have to have access to an outlet, but you can run an extension cord basically like you would for your Christmas lights to plug that in. And then shelter. So shelter can be any houses that you've used this summer can serve as your shelter. Like I said, we need to get in, clean all of those out. Everybody that used a house this summer is done nesting. Our last nesters of the summer were our goldfinches, and goldfinches nest in bushes and shrubs. So any of our cavity nesters, which is what we call those who nest in houses, they have been done for several weeks. So it's now safe to go in and clean out all of your nest boxes. On the left here, that little roosting pocket, our Carolina wrens absolutely love those. We are out of those at our Lexington Park store, but they are on order and will be in a couple days. We have plenty of them in La Plata. If I'd have thought about it, I'd have brought some from La Plata today, but I didn't realize until I got back to Lexington Park that we were out. But those are great to hang around your porch, hang somewhere near your house, because Carolina wrens love to roost near our house. They like to be near their people. So just hanging those on a porch, on the light receptacle near your door, and they will sleep in those 365 days a year. On snowy, wintry days, they'll spend their days in them. So they're a lot of fun to watch in there. But roosting pockets are cool little things for those wrens. So some of the foods that's going to help bring you a variety of birds. Birds choose their food based on the shape of the food. So you're going to get more birds if you use multiple types of foods. So nesting blend, we are still offering nesting blend in our stores right now. The reason for that is when birds finish nesting, they go through a molt where they replace all of their feathers to get their winter feathers on. They need those healthy feathers, again, to keep them warm in the winter. Feathers are made of 90% protein. Our nesting blend is packed full of protein. So we still want to offer nesting blend for a little bit longer. Here in the next week or two, we'll be switching and bringing in our winter blend. For a while, I continue to offer both nesting and winter blend, so I make sure they're getting everything they need there. But by the beginning of October, we'll definitely be moved over to winter blend at that point. So, but right now, nesting blend is where it's at because it's high protein we want in them. As we go into winter blend, we'll be adding more calcium into that. Or I'm sorry, nesting blend is more calcium, protein. Winter blend, we're going into more protein, more higher fat foods. Peanuts, another good one because it's a hearty food that will hold up for those birds that are caching foods away, but it's also high in fat. Tree Nutty Plus is that one that I mentioned that I add in the fall because it has some shell on it for those birds that want to cache it away. No Mess Plus is just my absolute favorite food to offer year round because it has something in it for all the birds. It has your peanuts, your tree nuts, cranberries, cherries, bark butter bits. So it's just a good all-around seed for everybody. If I was only going to feed one seed, that would be my single seed that I would offer. Choice is another one that you can add in this time of year that's going to have a shell. Of course, suet cakes, suet cylinders, because we want to start bringing more fats in. Suet balls is another one with the fats, bark butter bits, bark butter, those are all foods. Bark butter, if you have not tried it, in the picture I had there, where there was something spread on the tree and there was the yellow belly sapsucker with his wings spread on the tree. Bark butter is a pretty cool one to bring some unusual birds into your yard. Those birds who don't typically come to feeders, you can spread bark butter right onto a tree. And those birds who won't come to feeders, but obviously go to trees, can find that there. I get some brown creepers, some black and white warblers, that yellow belly sapsucker, pair of those that come every winter to visit us and come straight to that tree looking for their bark butter. And that does come in a hot pepper, so you can put that on the tree and not worry about the squirrels getting that. So those are some great ones. And again, I'll point those out to you when I take this off. So those are just some things that you can do to get your yard ready for fall bird feeding. So I'm going to take that off, stop share, so I can show you some of these products. Okay. So this was the suet balls that I had talked about here. So they are just little balls of suet. They're hard, they're no melt, so they can be used around. You can put them in feeders, something like this. You've got any kind of little cylinder feeders that will hold things. The neat thing about this one is you can add a tray to it. So some of those birds, like your cardinals, who aren't typically clinging birds, now have the opportunity to get suet. Our dark-eyed juncos, which are a Canadian bird that come and spend our winter, they typically wouldn't be able to cling either. But when you add this tray, they would be able to get the suet as well. Also, the suet cylinder can go on that. It can go in that feeder, but it can also go in this one. This is a favorite at my house and of many of our customers, actually, because it resembles a tree. There's not a long learning curve for the birds to come to this one. A lot of times when you put up a new feeder, it takes the birds a while to come to it. Birds have to be suspicious by nature. In order to survive, they can't just trust that everything out there is safe for them to eat. Every bird bath out there is safe. So they kind of stand back, wait for somebody else to try it out, make sure they survive. So with this one, because it looks like a tree, they tend to come to it a little quicker. So that suet cylinder can go in there, they cling to it, and then from the different holes, they can grab the suet. The bark butter I mentioned comes in tubs, different sizes, and you just use a fork, spread it right on a tree, leave little ridges like your peanut butter cookies, and the birds will just grip right on the tree and grab it off there. It's a really fun way to feed. If you've got little ones at home, it's a great way to get them involved. Would not do it if you're using the hot pepper though, because I will tell you that hot pepper is really, really, really hot. I advise people all the time, wash your hands well, and it never fails when I use that hot pepper that I end up wiping my eye and getting some in my eye. That hot pepper is spicy. Cylinders, if you haven't tried the cylinders, they are an easy way to feed. This particular one is shaped like a little raccoon here, but I wanted to show you this cool feeder for those who haven't been in to see this one yet. This is our brand new feeder, the Flying Bistro. I tested this one as it was being created. So I had it in my yard for about a year or so before the final product came out. And I will tell you, it's a really cool feeder. All metal, so it's going to stand up. When those annoying blackbirds become a problem, that top will drop down. You can use small or large cylinders on it. And when the cylinders are on it, you also have a tray here that you can use the bark butter bits and that again. So that's our hottest new feeder that everybody's loving that one. Another cool food that's fairly new, the bluebird bugberry blend. I have to look at that to say that. This one, a cool thing we're finding with it is American robins are coming to our feeders for this one. Robins are definitely not a feeder bird, but they are coming to the feeders for this one. If you put it in some type of large open tray feeder, they are coming down to eat on this one. So that's kind of a fun thing. It's basically everything our bluebirds like, but a lot of other birds will eat it as well. I mentioned bark butter bits. If you haven't seen those, this is bark butter bits. It's a little soft suet nugget, looks like dog food, but it's actually a soft nugget. 160 some species of birds have been seen eating the bark butter product. So bark butter is actually a really cool product. Nesting blend I mentioned. It comes in a loose seed or it comes in those cylinders that you can drop on one of many style feeders. So that's a good way to get those proteins. Suet cakes, just the regular suet cakes. Probably most of you are familiar with suet cakes. Right now, I would make sure you're still using the no melt suets. So you want to look for something that says no melt on it. Otherwise, the other ones in this heat are just going to drip down your feeders and your pull system, make a horrible mess. So make sure wherever you're buying it that you are getting a no melt variety. Also check your ingredients. Make sure you're getting things that are really high in fat. You want to make sure that you're getting actual suet in there and not a lot of fillers in that. For those who love our cranberry wreaths, they just came in this week. So fall is officially here when the cranberry wreaths come back. If you haven't tried these, they come with a little mesh bag. You can drop them in the bag and just hang them up. So they're a good way to get some food out there this time of year. And when I talked about peanuts in the shell, I really was just talking about our peanuts in the shell. You definitely want to make sure you're not using a salted peanut. So don't go to the steakhouse and pick up some peanuts and bring home. We don't want to end up with blue jays or squirrels or anybody with high blood pressure. So okay, so I mentioned the rose-breasted grosbeak. Safflower is a little tiny white seed. So don't confuse it with sunflower. Safflower is a very small white seed that has a very hard shell. And this is what you want to get out to bring those grosbeaks to your feeders. You can put it in a tray feeder. If you have it in a tube feeder, you may need to make sure you have a big enough tray on there because that grosbeak is a pretty bulky bird. Size-wise, bulkiness, it's like somewhere between a cardinal and a mourning dove. It's a heavy-bodied bird. You're going to know when you see it at your feeder. But so either put it in a tray feeder or make sure it's a substantial feeder that's going to allow that bird to land on it and eat from it. And then get some of that safflower out there because when they pass through, you don't want to miss them. They're especially the male. The female, of course, is a little more boring. She has to stay safe when she's sitting on the nest. But you want to make sure you have some safflower because you really want to get a chance to get a look at them at your feeders. They're just beautiful birds. And then the Tree Nutty Plus that I've mentioned several times. So it has peanuts, it has tree nuts, it has raisins in this. I do like to caution everyone, if you have dogs who eats under your feeders, then please don't use this seed. It has raisins in it. Raisins are toxic to dogs. So in your case, if the dogs can eat under the feeders, use the choice blend instead. That will still give you something that they can cache away. You're still going to have the peanuts in there. You're going to have the sunflower chips, but we just don't want those raisins under there where your dogs can get to it. But otherwise, that Tree Nutty Plus is a really good feeder or really good food to offer right now.
Hey, Barb.
Yeah.
Barb, can you put the Tree Nutty Plus in a cylinder, or is it better in a tray?
It can go in both. Yeah, I use it in my tray. When I fill my tray feeders, I put some of everything in there. So as I fill my tubes, everything I fill, I throw some in there. So my tray ends up like a smorgasbord. So there's a little bit of everything. One thing we've noticed right now too, typically the blue jays are always going after the peanuts with the shells on them. But we're noticing right now our blue jays are eating more tree nutty than peanuts with the shells on them right now. My best assumption is one of two things, because we have a lot of juveniles right now, or because they're molting. When birds are molting, their immune system's a little compromised. They're not feeling their best. So my guess is maybe they want to expend a little less energy. And so with the Tree Nutty Plus, they can eat those nuts, those fats, and not have to expend the energy shelling them. They're still taking peanuts and storing them away, caching them away, but we're just noticing them. They're eating from, it's actually this tray back here that has the Tree Nutty Plus in it, but that seems to be where they're dining from more right now. So, but yeah, you can put it in a tube too. And so I do have it in a tube. It has kind of a wire on the side that the birds can cling to, but then it has a tray, small tray underneath it for like our cardinals and birds that don't cling well. But the bulk of
sounds like they're going for the fast food right now.
I think exactly. Yeah. So they're doing what they have to do and store some away. But yeah, I think they're taking the easy way out right now. So let's see. Okay, I think I've shown you most of that. So let's open it up to questions.
Okay, there was one question earlier when you were talking about hummingbirds and that it's just mostly juveniles around right now. So are there predators to hummingbirds that we should watch out for?
Yeah, so actually a great one is, believe it or not, is praying mantises. So if you ever look out at your hummingbird feeder and you see a praying mantis on your hummingbird feeder, please go out and shoo that praying mantis. Don't kill it, but just shoo it away. That praying mantis is laying there waiting for your hummingbirds. There are some really graphic, if you wanted to Google it, some graphic images of what a praying mantis will do. But yeah, it's pretty ugly. But also as well, snakes will come up a pole and lay in waiting. Our best recommendation for that is putting a weather guard on top so that if you're using a black pole, we had a customer come in this year and show us a picture. The snake was wound around her black pole and she almost didn't even notice. I know I get chills too. I see Emily's reaction there. We had the same reaction here. I mean, we had always heard that snakes were predators, but we hadn't seen it firsthand until she brought the picture. So we have always recommended weather guards just for the rain and to keep it cooler. So now we're actually recommending weather guards so that the snake can't camouflage themselves against the black poles, because our weather guards are red. So you've got the weather guard hanging above your feeder now. So a couple other predators, the American kestrel, although not a big predator at your feeders. Another one is actually, believe it or not, fish and frogs. So the hummingbird will be hovering over a little pond or water source, catching insects. And the frogs and fish will jump up out of the water and grab the hummingbirds. So the big one at your feeder tends to be the praying mantis or cats. So if you have outdoor cats, we recommend trying to hang your feeders from higher locations. Also hang them out in the open where the cats can't hide in bushes and, lay in waiting for the hummingbirds. That was a great question.
Yeah. Barb, you had mentioned about the robins, that they're here all year long, but we just don't see them. Do they have a winter coat also? Do they kind of go more brown?
Yeah, so most of them don't change their coloring. They just change and put on new feathers so that they're very healthy feathers. So they look the same.
They're just kind of farther away. I mean, like in the back. Like
correct. Yeah.
Not out in our yard.
So what happens is, because they mostly eat insects and grubs and worms and things like that, if they go out in the woods, they can dig through the leaves and that, and they can still find plenty of food sources out in the woods under the shelter of the tree canopy.
Okay. Oh, Jessica asked, should we still be leaving out nesting material in the winter?
So I'll do that. So mostly they will find their own natural nesting material, but we have some nesting balls, and then we have some hummingbird nesting material as well. You can leave that out, and some of the birds will grab that to put into their nest boxes and that. Some of them will grab pine straw, things like that as well.
That looks like a little warm blanket.
Yeah, so a couple things we don't want to do. We used to say, put your dryer lint out. No more, because we're using chemicals in our dryers. But also we have found that dryer lint holds the moisture too much. We also used to say put pet hair or people hair out. But the same reason we say not to use that, because we're using the chemicals in that on the dogs and on our hair and that. So we want to go with a natural material that will dry quickly. And another one is, probably, I think it was about 2016, 17. Up to that point, we were saying, take crochet yarn and cut it in small pieces and put it out. And we found a few cases where the birds were getting the little fibers wrapped around their little nails and were getting caught in nests and dying. So we've done away with that too. When we know better, we do better.
Okay. Would pulled out long weeds be a good thing to leave out?
If they want those, they'll find those naturally.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I love Jamie's question, and I did not stage this. She said, do you have any recommendations for books that people might want for birding?
Christine, do you have any recommendations for books?
But do you have specific ones? I happen to have some sitting on this counter in front of me that I was going to talk about if we had time. So
right.
Thank you for
so we do have some field guides in the store. We actually brought, if anyone has little ones, we brought in this year a cool series of little kids books, toddlers, preschool, elementary, and that's some fun. Chip's grabbing a couple here. These have been a huge hit, discovering the world of bird nests and that, where the kids get to look through the tree and find the nests and that. So these are fun ones for little ones. But we do, and then of course the beekeeper, he brings me the beehive one too. No preference.
Oh, that's so cute.
Treatment here. But then we also do have We have one that was written by Jim Carpenter, our founder, The Joy of Bird Feeding here. I highly recommend that book. It's not one you read cover to cover. It's one that every time you pick it up, you're going to pick up something new. Do you guys have that one in the library? Do you know, Christine?
I don't think so. There was another book, and I was just looking back through my notes. I couldn't find it, that you had recommended before, that we do have a copy of.
The Blue
I'll have to
Winter.
look and see if I can find that title that you had mentioned in a
Yeah,
one of the
Nature's
programs.
Hope. Was it Nature's Hope?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, hang on. Tip's getting a copy of that.
We do have that one at the library.
Yeah, Nature's Best Hope is an amazing book by Douglas Ptolemy. He's got some great work out there. A couple years ago, he was at our conference. We got to listen to him speak. Amazing guy. So yeah, follow his Facebook page too. But what do you have, Christine?
Oh, what do I have? I'm so glad you asked, Barb. I was just looking on our new shelf out at the Leonardtown Library. And we do have, oh, I'm holding them the wrong way. We do have some field guides that you can borrow to test out. I like to have my own field guide because I can write in it. But if you want to like try them out, we have a few you can borrow, kind of like borrowing a cookbook to see if you like it or not. And we do have some other nonfiction books. This one is The Guide to Powerful Healing of Bird Watching, which is kind of cool. And this is the art and science of enjoying birds in your backyard. So those are our nonfiction books, and I'll send links to those. We do have some electronic books too. So if you can't come into the library, that might be an option. So in my follow-up email, I'll have that. And if you would like some fiction books that have bird themes, we have a lot of cozy mystery books, and some of them are bird themes, and they always have really fun titles. Like this one is Murder Most Foul, and it has to do with Macbeth by Donna Andrews. And then this one is The Falcon Always Wings Twice. They always have those really fun pun titles. And if you do happen to like that genre of cozy mysteries, we have a cozy mystery book club that meets here at Leonardtown once a month. So you might want to check that out. That one's actually in person. Most of our book clubs are virtual. So something to check out on our calendar. So I'm very glad you asked, Jamie, because I had them right here. So thank you. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to mention, Barb, that your photos are amazing. I think everything in your presentation are your photos now, and they are so good. So thanks for sharing those.
Sure.
Our next program is going to be on Thursday, October 12th at the same time. What's it going to be about, Barb?
The top 13 most wanted backyard birds.
Yeah. So we haven't done that one as a virtual library program before, so I'm looking forward to that. We'll see who they are, who those 13 most wanted birds are. Okay.
We're going to talk about what kind of foods, what feeders, how to identify them. So everything you need to know to get them in your yard.
Okay. That's what we want. All right. Well, I think that's everything. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I know it's hard to fit things in our busy lives. So thank you for taking the time out. And it is always wonderful to get to see you, Barb. Thank you for sharing all of your great information.